Good morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. I appreciate you jumping into the webinar today. Today, we're going to talk about using SOLIDWORKS Connected for day-to-day design. And I looked at the list of those folks who will be attending, and most of you are SOLIDWORKS users, so we're not going to do a lot of design work, but you're going to get a sense of what Connected is, how you use it for design, and how it relates to the 3D Experience platform. Before I do that, I want to just share a couple polls with you. I just want to kind of find out from the audience that we have here today. First thing, do you always use the latest version of SOLIDWORKS? As we get a few answers in here, we'll share those results. Okay, got one of you answering. Give a few seconds more. All right, so this is going to play into our conversation today. But whether or not you use SOLIDWORKS, the latest version is important. And I just want to get another sense of, who's heard of SOLIDWORKS Connected? It's been out for like a year now. There's still some understanding of how it differs from what we have as desktop SOLIDWORKS, and I'm hoping to bring a lot of that to light today so you understand exactly what SOLIDWORKS Connected is. Okay, so it seems like we have a pretty good mix here. All right, so let's go ahead and clear those. Delete those and delete that. Okay, so now on to our presentation. As I mentioned, we're going to talk about using Connected, and I am going to kick off my webcam just to give you a better bandwidth here as we go. Using SOLIDWORKS Connected and give you some sense of what that even means. So SOLIDWORKS Connected, generally speaking, is a new version of SOLIDWORKS. I say new kind of tongue-in-cheek because it was released last July. So it's already a year old. It's already had a bunch of development over the years, but it's a new version of SOLIDWORKS that is always connected to the cloud for your licensing and for your data storage. Okay, that's important to remember. It's for both of those aspects. If we look at some of the major components of 3D Experience SOLIDWORKS, this connected version, the first thing that I mentioned is that data storage and data management is built right in. You can see from that image, we're not going to go into the data management. At the end of today's webinar, I will provide you with a link to a data management webinar that will give you a better idea. I'm focusing today specifically on helping you understand when I design what is going to be different for me. But data storage and management is built into SOLIDWORKS Connected. I asked the question about SOLIDWORKS version because if you use SOLIDWORKS Connected, you're always on the latest version. I know some companies need to work back previous releases with other customers. If that's the case, Connected will not be for you. But for those who like to stay up on the latest, Connected will always be on the latest version. There is no need for IT and updates and all of these things that you do today to update the existing desktop. Licensing is consumed when you log in when you're using Connected. So if you've used the online licensing for desktop, it's similar in that sense that you're assigned a license and you can consume it wherever you log in. That could be on your work PC, your home PC. It could be on a somebody's PC or a borrowed PC in the library. But you will have the ability to log in and you will take that license when you do so. From a functionality standpoint, I'm going to just make a general statement because I'll show this at the end. The connected versions of SOLIDWORKS have more functionality than desktop today. Okay, there are some things that made sense to be removed from SOLIDWORKS because they have better or more aligned tools on the cloud side. but it is essentially SOLIDWORKS with added functionality. And I'll talk a little bit about that at the end of the presentation today. So installation and deployment, I talked about, making it easy to deploy and be on the latest version. It is installed directly from the cloud. You don't have to browse to your customer portal and download the files and figure out what service pack you need to be on and all those things. You go there, you go to launch it, it will tell you if you have the latest. I have a quick little video here example of what it would look like. Now, I've created a shortcut on my desktop to launch the connected SOLIDWORKS. What this basically does is it goes out to the cloud and it launches the license that I need. Now, if you're not on the latest service pack or version, it tells you, hey, there's an update, get update. You hit the button and it will go ahead and proceed. Okay. Now, once it's up to date, this is how you'll launch SOLIDWORKS. This is how you'll start your day when you're ready to design. You have your SOLIDWORKS Connected shortcut. Now, this video right here is in real time. So this is what it looks like to get launched with Connected. You're connecting to the cloud. You're logging in to the platform, and you're starting a new model. You'll see here it takes just a moment to connect you directly to the cloud location where you store data. Okay. Now, from here, I kind of want to take you through some of the things that you may notice that are slightly different than desktop SOLIDWORKS. Now, let me be clear about this. What I'm showing you is essentially desktop SOLIDWORKS that is always connected to the cloud. It has sheet metal, it has molds, it has weldments, it has drawings, it has all the design features that we're used to having. Where things are different or slightly different is how we open, how we save, and how we export data, because the data is saved on the cloud. Okay, and you must, and this is a rule with Connected, is you must save it to the cloud. Once it's saved to the cloud, you can do other things with it, like exporting it out to a zip file or exporting it as a PDF and so on. But you have to save it to the cloud first. This ensures that it's backed up. So let's take a look around here. You'll notice off to the right-hand side in our task pane is a tab for the 3D Experience platform. This is the built-in data management. This is where we go to see the relationship of the file I have open relative to what's stored on the cloud. Now, as a CAD user, I don't need to spend a lot of time dealing with that. I'm going to design, I'm going to show you what it looks like to do that. But let me take you through some other things that you'll see. Now, other things that you'll notice is the save icon has now two options, save and save with options. Those are specific to the platform. A save means in the world of Connected, save it to the cloud. Now, you'll also notice under the file menu, you'll find your save and save with options, but you'll also see publish, export, and export as. This is where we get our PDFs and other file formats. Also, opening, you can open from the machine, or when you open, the system thinks you want to go out to the cloud and open something up because that's where your data storage is. There is no search bar, no longer inside of the SOLIDWORKS, and there's a pull-down menu off to the right that allows me to specify the location where I'm storing the files that I'm creating, and you can switch to it very easily. Now, the tab in the task pane does have something similar to the command manager. We call it the action bar at the bottom. This is where we're going to initiate a lot of those commands for data management and data storage. Now, I'm not going to go through that today. The next thing to talk about is the configuration manager. So we deal with, in Connected, physical products, which are the same as configurations. You can one-to-one with configurations. And then we have representations, which are like display states. Those are like configurations that you create that are specific to visualizing the assembly. Configurations, which we now on Connected call physical products, are things we manufacture to. So some slight differences between desktop and Connected, but you can draw parallels between what we already do. Probably from what I showed you, the biggest difference is configurations being physical products in representations. Again, a physical product is a part number that you manufacture to. So from here, just to reiterate, SOLIDWORKS Connected is a cloud-only save. Okay, when you save it for the first time, you have to save it to the cloud. There is an export available, so it's not a problem to get it anywhere else you need it, but you have to save it to the cloud first. It has the integrated data management or data repository, and then configurations equal physical products and display configurations equal representations. Those are the basic differences that I just outlined. Now let's go a little bit further. Let's start to design a part within the platform, within SOLIDWORKS, but I need to find the assembly that I'm going to work on that's stored in the cloud. Now, I don't have to browse to a web page. I don't have to go to some special app to do that. Built into my task pane, into my session, is a search bar. And all I need to do is type in the name of the file or description or property that I'm searching on, in this case, the Moto knee, and it will search. It goes out to the cloud. It finds the data that I'm looking for. When I want to open it, I just drag and drop it onto my command manager, and this is what prompts the download from the cloud directly to my machine, and it will open the file up. Very, very simple. Just like you would go to a folder and search, okay, we can go to the search bar and find the data very quickly. Okay. Now you'll notice this is another shot of the same model. You'll notice off to the right-hand side, it builds a tree essentially of all of the components that I have open. And it gives me some information on those. And you'll see as I design, I'm not going to interact with these a whole lot because that conversation is more about data management. But you'll notice that it works right along with me. As a designer, I don't really have to pay attention to it at this point, but I can. So what we want to do with this particular model is we want to create a new bracket on the bottom of this thing. So I have to get a sense of the size, 25, 65 by 40, so I kind of have a sense of the space that it fits in. And we're going to go ahead and just delete the components that are no longer useful in this assembly for this. And you can see that this piston kind of now moves right along, right? This is typical SOLIDWORKS design work at this point. Creating a new model, no different, except that your templates can be loaded out in the cloud where everyone can share them. I start a new part, just as I normally would inside of SOLIDWORKS. Now that new part, you'll notice in your task pane, it tells me that I have part 1, and it gives me an icon, which I'm going to show you here in a moment. Now, continuing on, I'll design just as I normally would, right? We have our size that we figured out based upon the assembly. We're going to make this thing 65 by 25 and 40, around 40 in width. So we'll go ahead and extrude it. Notice there's nothing different in the way that we design. It's all SOLIDWORKS functions. There's nothing different here. We need to add some fillets in here to round this thing off. Now, I'm not going to sit here and have you watch me model. You know how to draw parts at this point. What I want to do is kind of fast forward here a moment. I'm going to add these fillets, and let's fast forward to a complete part. And let's start to see how connected changes and where it changes in your process. Okay. So if I fast forward, I've done nothing but model at this point. You can see I have 8 features in the tree. I've added some chamfers, some fillets, a hole for a shoulder screw that's going to keep the thing together. Now's when I decide that I'm ready to put what I've done out in my cloud storage, right? I want to store this out on the platform. And to do that, I use the save or save as that we had introduced to start with. And it's going to say, what do you want to name this, right? This is just like our save as. You give it a name and you save it to your drive or wherever it happens to be. But here, it asks me for the name when I initially do the save. This save is what puts it out in the cloud and makes it shareable to everyone else that's using the system. You can see that I've named that the 17-900. It tells me where I've stored it on the platform, got descriptions and information that's specific to data management. That's your first step from designing to working with this connected cloud piece. Now you choose when you do that. That could be, days into your design if you desire. What I'm getting at is that you don't interact with it until you're ready. Okay? So let's continue looking at this. And I want to take this particular assembly, and we're going to go ahead and just look a little bit at the configurations. In this case, if you look at the configuration tab, I've got 2 configurations. Well, in terms of connected, these are called physical products. I have 2 different brackets, the 17-900 and the 17-901. And notice when I switch between them, the 3D Experience tab also switches. So these are almost like having separate files, because connected treats them as separate part numbers. So I want to be clear on that. That one's a nice change. It's nice to be able to see 2 separate things, because if you are manufacturing to them, we can revision manage them individually, and we can add them to assemblies individually. Okay. Now, from here, let's go ahead and make a drawing exactly the way you would start with desktop. Start a drawing, drag your views. Okay, nothing different here, no variations in a drawing. Support for all the tools that we typically have on desktop. Nothing unique here. So I've completed a drawing. Now notice my tab off to the right now shows that there's relationships between the files that I have open. This is natural, right? We're used to this in SOLIDWORKS, a drawing attached to a part and so on. We're going to continue to interact with that as we kind of move along here. So once I have the drawing complete, we can go back to the part here, and we want to make some design changes. But those changes are based upon a part that I've already saved out on the cloud. So here we go with the search again. I'm searching on a different version of the bracket. I can search and find what I'm looking for. Okay, here's an old version of the bracket, and I can open it up just as I normally would. Now, that process is not much different than browsing to a folder, except you're searching for it. Okay, here's where the SOLIDWORKS process becomes very similar, right? We tile a couple windows here. We're going to reuse some features from one onto another, and we're going to repair this model, repair the dangling features after we reuse. Okay, so reusing data on the cloud, again, search, find, open, and reuse. Nothing different. It's probably actually easier with the search capability than it is trying to find something in a Windows folder structure. Drawing gets updated, add a new section view, and you notice off to the right in the pane again, there's the 2 files, the drawing and the part, now's when I decide what I want to do, whether I want to save these items to the platform. But if I look at these, you can see that the first one says it's been modified, right? We changed the part. It says it's been modified, and the drawing says it's new because I haven't saved it to the platform yet. So here's my opportunity to go ahead and put it out on the cloud, right? I right-click, save, put it on the cloud, okay? And I can go ahead and place that drawing file now out to the cloud. Okay, and it's my choice when to go ahead and do that. Okay. If we continue on, once it's on the cloud, you have a lot of information here. Information about who is working on it, where in the process it is, where it's stored. All of that is important if you're going out to the cloud, but while I'm working in SOLIDWORKS, I can just see that information in the pane, and I don't have to proceed any further. Now back to my assembly for a moment. I've placed the bracket inside the assembly. You can see my pane off to the right, again, providing the information about what I'm doing. I just kind of leave it there and going. So what I need to do is add a shoulder screw. Now, again, here's a nice little search where I can type in shoulder and I get 24 different shoulder screws. Well, what if I want a certain size? I can just hit space and type in my M6. Okay, 25 millimeter. Okay, go ahead and limit the 24 down to 4, and I could just drag and drop it directly into assembly. Now, this is slightly different than we did before because I don't want to open it in an old window. I just want to drop it into assembly. So I find what I'm looking for, I drop it into the assembly. From there, it becomes SOLIDWORKS. Okay, I'm just going to drag and drop a shoulder screw into position. I'll use my SmartMates to position the piston back on. I have one little issue I have to fix, and that's the access to the shoulder screw. The hole for that is a little bit small. Now notice when I go to modify the hole that the system says, hey, you're going to make changes to read-only documents. In other words, you're changing something that you haven't told the system you are going to change. Well, at this point, I can ignore it, but we're going to take care of it in a bit. Okay, so I've made my changes, added my bracket, added my shoulder screw. As you can see, very little difference in how we work with desktop. Now, one important caveat of all of this discussion that I'm having is I'm connected to the internet at all times. Now, connected requires you to have an internet connection. It doesn't have to be blazing fast speeds, although decent speeds help. I've seen people run on hotspots. I had one of our internal employees the other day who was at a training session and was trying to model something and couldn't get his SOLIDWORKS running, so they jumped on the platform to run, and everything ran very well, even with a very poor connection. But you must be connected. So to kind of close this out, when you go back to the pane that represents all the components you've been working on, and you go to save it, what you'll see is the system tells you all the files that you modified that are not able to be changed. And this process that you see is a little bit more of the data management side, your ability to say, hey, you know what, I'm going to create a new revision of each of these things, and that, you know, I'm going to put a changed copy out on the platform because I've made a modification, not just overwriting it. If you're overwriting it, you just hit save. If you're modifying something where you need both versions, that's where revisions come into play. Very simple. Create a new revision, and I'm able to save this whole new version of the piston with the bracket at the bottom, with the shoulder screw. I can save that all to the cloud in one click. Okay, and as you can see, my tree updates with the new version of B of the MotoKnee. Okay. Now, let's dig a little bit deeper into my original comments about Connected having more functionality than desktop. So I already made the comment that Connected is literally the same as SOLIDWORKS Desktop. There are slight variations in some of the design tools. Let me give you an example. The property tab builder is not available in Connected. Why? Because there's a different mechanism for linking properties to the cloud. It makes complete sense. The search bar isn't there in Connected. Well, hopefully through this demo, you understand that there's a search bar built into the task pane that's specific for finding the data. The things that are changed or removed are there because they're redundant or there are better tools that are integrated in the cloud. Well, Connected comes with a package called 3D Experience SOLIDWORKS Standard, Pro, and Premium. So it's kind of like the desktop packages, but it's the cloud connected packages. And they are one aspect of that. Now, as you can see here, 3D Experience SOLIDWORKS Standard has a lot of the tools that we're used to: FeatureWorks, Interconnect, Utilities, RX. But then we start to add some things that are cloud specific. You don't get eDrawings, you get 3D Play, which is the cloud viewer. There's a 3D drive for storing data and sharing data like Dropbox. You get 25 gigs of storage. You get automatic data conversion using the drive format converter. You get all the data management built in, which on desktop isn't until your pro level. And then you get added tools like tasks, change actions, issues, and routes. Now, a couple things I skipped over. You'll get a cloud-based design tool called XDesign. XDesign is 100% cloud-based. In other words, you can log in on your iPhone, your tablet, on a public computer and browse to it and actually design parts. So this is the most versatile design package that we have, and it's very, very much like SOLIDWORKS. The commands, the icons, the process flow, very, very similar. And that's all part of 3D Experience SOLIDWORKS Standard. So this goes back to my comment about getting more. You definitely get more with 3D Experience SOLIDWORKS. You don't lose the design aspect, but you get a lot more. When you go to Professional and Premium, let's start with Professional. You get a lot of our favorite tools. Toolbox, the Design Checker, Tile Analyst, but you get added tools. Visualize was part of Pro. Now you get Visualize Professional Connected. You get a rendering tool that's connected to the cloud, but you get the animation side of the rendering tool as well. So they've upgraded that, and you've got more capability. You get another XDesign tool, another 100% cloud-based tool called XShape. This is for organic modeling, the clay, push, pull, drag. Very, very powerful. If you ever need anything that you would use surfacing on, this is going to be a much easier tool to create those organic shapes. And then you get CircuitWorks. As you go up another level, you got your standard premium offerings with your simulation, your motion, your routing, costing, flatten, and interconnect. So the three levels match what we have on the desktop, with the difference being SOLIDWORKS Connected, which we showed you today. Now, here's a little imagery to show you a little bit about the Visualize Pro that comes in here. If you've used Visualize for rendering, it takes it to another level with rendered animations. This is an example of the same MotoKnee with a rendered animation. When it comes to simulation, it's no different. It's desktop simulation, working on the models that you have stored on the cloud. Nothing different related to that. We're used to this process. We're used to the simulation process for this. Okay. Now, we only had 30 minutes today, so I did not go into all the data management. I wanted to give you a sense of what is connected. Wanted to give you a sense of how it's different from desktop. And the reality should be is it's not that different. There are some slight variations, and you do need an internet connection, but it's not that different. But this link here will take you to a webinar that's specific on the data management side of things. If you want to see more details about rev control and data storage and where it goes and how easy it is to do the data management piece along with Connected, then that's the webinar you want to see. If you go to mysolidworks.com, there's a training in there called Explore the Collaborative Designer for SOLIDWORKS Role. This is the connector to put data out in the cloud. This is how we put data out in the cloud. That's that task pane add-in that you see automatically with Connected. That'll help you learn a little bit more about that. So I appreciate your time today. Hopefully this was enlightening. My hope is that as things progress and Connected becomes more and more mainstream and more customers are deciding just to switch their desktop seats to Connected, that the stigma about why it's different and what's different goes away. It really isn't that different. It's very, very powerful. Just like desktop tools, you get more functionality that you can grow into, just like we have with the desktop packages. And it's the future. It's where we're going. You'll see this more in each release. There's more relationship with the cloud and the 3D Experience platform, and Connected gets stronger and stronger every day. So I appreciate you coming. If you have any questions, go ahead and just post them into the chat. Otherwise, we appreciate your time today, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.